All right, welcome back. Already on the third episode here of the Voice of the Movement, a Touch by Addiction production. If you want to join the movement, head over to touchbyaddiction.ca. Get yourself some of these dope hoodies, dope t-shirts. We got it. Yeah, they're nice hoodies too. That's the thing too. Comfortable, good looking. Help you pull, your spouse, your future spouse. But yeah. So today with us we have Trevor. Trevor, I quite literally just met you maybe 2 minutes ago, but it's nice to have you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for giving us your time, and we're happy to have you and hear your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem, no problem. So, what was life like for you before addiction?
So I was raised as by an only mother, a single mother, only child. I didn't have any extended family other than my mom. My mom did the best that she could do for me, but I was bullied a lot in school, and I had an incredible amount of anger kind of inside of me, and I didn't really know at the time really that I was even angry, weirdly enough, but and I blamed a lot of people for the way that my life was, but that's kind of how it was before addiction.
Yeah, for sure. I know what you mean. One of my big problems was anger too, and something that I really, really struggled with for a long, long time until even after being a Christian, until Jesus took that away. Um,
Yeah.
so what kind of got you started from onto your pathway to addiction? You know?
Yeah, so I kind of did some reflecting recently, and I actually kind of figured out that it had to do with I think like stealing was actually one of my first problems, and it kind of led me kind of in that wrong path. But I started stealing cigarettes from my mother when I was like 10, and then I was stealing from stores. Then I got into like car hopping, and then I got into smoking weed. And then when I got into smoking weed, the bullying seemed to stop, and I started to become more popular, which was all more reason to smoke the weed other than the escape from everything that I was doing. So, um, and I got into snorting Ritalin and doing pills like that starting, and then I started drinking pretty heavily, and then I was doing kind of blow and E, and I was kind of doing this balancing act between the both of them because I was a control freak. So I liked having control, and as soon as one started to grasp me, I would switch to the other so that I could still escape reality, but I was trying to maintain control. Um, I even smoked rock at a very young age, at like 15. But at that time, I didn't really like it. But I dropped out of school. I wasn't following the rules at home, so my mom kicked me out. I started working full time. I got a girlfriend, but because I was on drugs and I was young, and I was angry, I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, and I didn't really know what a proper relationship was. I wasn't able to have, proper relationships. So every relationship I was really in ended quite badly. I quit weed, and I went back to school. I realized that that it was stopping me from finishing school. So I actually somehow quit weed and started going to school. When I quit weed, I started selling it, and I was selling E, and I was selling weed, and I was drinking kind of pretty heavily. And then I started to see drinking affecting my relationships as well. So I actually quit drinking, but then I started gambling. And then I started when I was and then I lost my rent money, and then I was like, hey, I'm having a problem gambling now. And then I was doing opiates. That was a pretty rough go, but I managed to actually search for my family, and I actually went to BC, met my family as I was withdrawing from the opiates. I used that time to get away and actually withdraw from the opiates, and I came back, and then I would just be drinking. But then drinking got really, really bad, And then things got better for a short period of time. I became a financial advisor, and my life seemed to have like some real purpose. And so I kind of was like trying to be like a good boy and try to do what I was trying to do, and I felt good doing it because I had a purpose. But I could only put that up for so long. And then I started doing blow on a daily basis, and then I started selling it, and then I was smoking it, and I got up to probably about $500 a day. Um, and then I tried to switch to do all these different kinds of drugs to try to get off of it, and it didn't work this time, and that's what took me out.
Yeah, yeah, I really relate to a lot of what you said. I was smiling kind of because certain points there's like I feel like our stories really kind of connect, and especially in the part at the beginning where you're saying like, when I started smoking, that's when I fit in and and the bullying stopped, right? And
Yeah,
like everybody loves you when you have the drugs, and
yep,
when you're selling and when you're dealing and stuff, like,
yeah,
you never run out of friends. And um yeah, but no, for sure. And I think the gambling too is something that, maybe we don't talk about enough. We don't, include in, enough of like the addiction conversation, right? And
yeah,
it can get bad, right? Like even I know, like I love sports but I have that kind of, in my mind, like it's still an addiction. It could still be there if I start betting money on it.
yeah,
So
yep.
I settle for what I call mind gambling, where I bet on sports in my mind and I see if I win
No
or
money.
not. But yeah, no money, and I
Exactly.
still get the rush, kind of. So maybe it's not a good thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So what kind of like what would a day look like for you in addiction? Like, you know, um, obviously it changes from time to time,
Yeah.
but average kind of, every day routine.
Well, when things got really bad, I guess because there's a bunch of different stages in my addiction, I guess. But when things got really bad, I would wake up at 4 p.m. I would, shower. I would listen, to the same song. I kind of had this little routine. I'd wake up with like $5 in my pocket, um, and I would try to figure out how I was gonna use that day because I couldn't really function without it. But and I was trying to be normal. I was trying to pretend people that didn't use. I was trying to pretend that I was okay when they knew I was messed up, but I thought I was pulling wool over their eyes. And then even people that I was selling to, I tried to maintain. Um, I tried to hide really what was going on with them too, because I didn't want them to know how badly I was cutting their stuff and whatever. So we're just living this big lie, right? Even yeah, but yeah, my phone would ring, and then I would go out, I'd make some money, I'd do drugs and party all night, and I would bring home my profit, and then I would do my profit all night. I'd probably get home around 6 o'clock in the morning. So the sun would be going up and I would be going to bed, and I would do all my profit, and then I would go to bed. Um, and I would wake up at 4 o'clock with $5 in my pocket and do it again somehow, get to $500 and use it all. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's crazy cycle, vicious cycle, right? I definitely know the feeling of waking up with nothing or with $5 and, trying to turn it into more and the doing the profit thing, right? Yeah, I can relate to that. So, um, when did you realize that this lie, you said, like everything was a lie. When did you realize that, your life needed to change?
I probably know I needed to change probably a year before I really did. It was, I think, Christmas 2015. I was 3 days late for Christmas. And as I mentioned before, my mom, like, it was just me and my mom. So Christmas is just me and my mom. So my mom actually, like, I was AWOL, like I slept for 3 days. That's what kind of happened. Well, I slept for like 2 days really, but um, yeah, I was just really messed up. And that's when I was like, well, my mom spent Christmas alone. I was like, And then I even showed up afterwards, and I was like, I came with presents from the dollar store like it was Christmas Day still, 3 days late, thinking it was all okay. And obviously it wasn't. Um, but I was really, when I realized I was hurting everyone around me, that's another thing that kind of triggered that it wasn't like everything wasn't okay. Um, and not only just that I was hurting people around me, but that I was hurting myself, and that was hurting people that were caring about me. And I started to kind of clue into that. I was people, a lot of people, I had a lot of support, and a lot of people were helping me. Um, and they wanted me to go to meetings, they wanted me to go to detox, like there were people around me supporting me, which was really good. You know, a couple people even gave me guitars, and they were just like, hey Trevor, put down the pipe, pick up a guitar. I literally, people gave me two different people gave me guitars. I don't know when, yeah, and I started playing guitar after I got sober. But yeah, I started to have health complications because of my using, and that was a big part. I feel that too, that kind of triggered the event that I needed to change. And then I fell in love with this girl, and she was like, I thought she was a really great girl. And then I looked at myself and I'm like, well, why would this good girl like want anything to do with me? Look at me. I'm a crackhead. I'm sleeping in like, I don't even have a bed. I'm like sleeping on my dirty clothes and wrapping a sheet around it to make it into a bed, you know? Why does she want to be with me? So when I looked at that, I was like, yeah, like this girl doesn't want to be with me. How am I gonna? I wanted to be that person that she kind of that she would deserve to be with, right? Um, I had a couple psychotic episodes. Those were pretty crazy. Um, then I did a bunch of combination of drugs. I almost died, and then I just wanted to kill myself. Um, I realized that I came to the conclusion that at least if I went to detox, if I killed myself, I couldn't go to detox. But if I went to detox, I could always kill myself later, I guess. So I was really messed up, but that I had that much logic to basically, and that's what it was. I kind of screwed over a friend that was really close to me, and I just wanted to die. Um, and then I basically made a deal with God, and I just said, I'm gonna try doing this for a year, and if and I gave myself a year, and and that's when I called my buddy and I said, yeah, I'm ready to go to detox now. And he's like, hey, I'll be there in an hour, get ready. And I just got ready in 5 seconds, and I just waited at the front door for him. He picked me up and went to detox.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing journey. How God can bring us to, a place where we feel like we're at rock bottom, but He is always the rock underneath, right? And
Mm-hmm.
um, I remember very similarly, one of my first prayers was a deal with God about something. And,
Yeah.
looking back on it, it's like, okay, He kept His end. Now, can I keep mine? And I try to keep mine all the time. But
And who are we to make deals with God, right?
I know, right?
But that's my story. I don't. That's what happened. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm very similarly can remember and relate to a lot of your stuff. And I was thinking it's amazing what the love of a woman could make us do, right? Because
right.
as men, like we'll do anything, right? And I'll leave behind everything I know for you and change. Everybody's been trying to get me to change. They brought me guitars, they brought me, helped me, supported me, but the love of a woman, what could you do, right? There's
And nothing ever happened with that girl either. But it was a triggering event that God brought her into my life to be that person at that time. And that yeah, and that was that's a big part for guys, right?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. How God knew exactly what you needed to get
Yeah.
change, like to change, right? And He brought it
Yeah.
into your life. And praise God that He did that. You know,
Yeah.
so you mentioned detox. What kind of happened after that? Like, what was the journey to being sober, like you are today?
Yeah, so in detox, I had a bunch of stuff in my system. Um, And then I just remember they asked me, what have you used in the last 30 days? And I gave them a whole list of basically everything except some psychedelic drugs. And then they were just like, well, what about weed? And I was like, no, I can't. I was like, I can't handle weed. That stuff freaks me out. Cause yeah, after I quit weed, I couldn't smoke it. It just made me so paranoid. It literally made me have like psychotic episodes. So I couldn't smoke it. But yeah, but I was drawing from everything else. And so that was quite a crazy time. And then after being sober for a little while, actually being sober felt like a buzz. So then I kind of enjoyed that for a while. They call that like the pink cloud, but that I actually enjoyed having that feeling. And then I went to rehab, and rehab was a nice vacation from the messed up, life that I created for myself. So it was nice to get away. And then I was able to kind of sit back and like look at my life and look at me and kind of see, well, why did those things happen, and why was my life the way it was? And then I would do anything to change at that point. I kind of figured it all out. Like I figured it out what I needed to figure out for the most part. And then I just wanted to do anything I needed to do to change. So I went to, I almost did the 90 meetings in 90 days. I went to CA, I went to NA, I went to AA. I had like the fear of missing out. I wanted to get better so bad that I was like, okay, there's all these different programs for all these different drugs, and I got a lot of problems, so I'm just gonna go to all of them. I didn't go to Gamble Anonymous because I still haven't been to any of those, but I didn't have access to any of those. I didn't know where it was, so otherwise I would have went there too. But I didn't want to miss out. I wanted to make sure I got everything I could, and gave myself the best shot I could possible. I got a sponsor. I started doing the steps. And then they talk about this God guy, and everybody kind of had their own like opinion on what God was. Like for some it would be like the meeting. For some it would be some guy would be like a tree. Some guy was his girlfriend. So I kind of was like, well, what does that mean to me? So I started to research it. So I read the Bible front to back. It took me like a year. And then I spent another year just researching all different kinds of religions. And then I found there was really something in the Bible. And after I looked at like how history in the Bible kind of coincide, and I looked at like the prophetic part of the Bible of telling, the future, and how it told, events in the future in Revelation. I was like, yeah, there's really something in here. This is really, there's something really special in here. So then I started to really look at, look at the Bible. So I started pursuing Christ, and learning as much as I could about Christ. And then things started to kind of change in my life, and I was like, just crazy things were happening in my life where they're just too way too many things to just be like a coincidence. And I started to feel God, and I could feel God working in my life. And then at that point, my my life, I was totally relieved from the obsession of alcohol and drug use. Like I didn't want to do it. It didn't bother me. I'm not saying that it's everybody's like that, but for me, that's how it was. I definitely was very careful on what I did at the beginning stages, but after a while, um, yeah, the obsession was completely lifted. I started going to church. I attend a meeting called Overcomers, and it's a Christ-based 12-step program, and it's for overcoming all sins. Codependence is in there, anger, any kind of addiction, um, all kinds of anything. Nobody's perfect, and this program kind of works for everybody, which is awesome. So I go to there, and then and it because I still have stuff that even though the obsession for alcohol and drugs is gone, I'm still working on things on a daily basis just to improve my life. So I just always like improving, and I think it's an ongoing journey with Christ. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all, on the narrow path to the narrow gate, right? And we
Yeah.
won't ever get there until we get there. And
Right.
I know what you mean, like so much like about just that desire just being gone, right? Like, don't get me wrong, like there's still times and situations where it's like, okay, it'd be nice to have a beer or something, but you know, for the most part, it's not something that I focus on. And that's because,
Mhm.
I primarily, and I fail all the time, but I try to keep my eyes fixed on Jesus and on heavenly things, and earthly things seem to just melt away. And,
Right.
it's not always possible, right? But I'm definitely grateful for that from God. That's from him for sure.
Hmm.
Um, so what were some of like the biggest challenges, biggest obstacles that you faced in both getting sober and maintaining it since then?
Yeah, resentments was a big one for me. So, forgiving people that I felt that wronged me, and even people that, and then forgiving myself really for the big one for feeling, the hatred towards and the anger towards the people that may have harmed me, or maybe I just thought they did. Um, I sought out my family, and I met some of my family. That was a big part. That was a kind of a big challenge for me, making amends. That was big. Dealing with personal struggles. I did a lot of counseling. Counseling was really big. I still talk to somebody on occasion, but that was big for me. And I still face obstacles. There's still stuff when I was using. Um, it didn't really matter what it was. It could be the smallest little thing, like I stubbed my toe, and now I have to go get obliviated, and then I blare music, and then my I get kicked out of my house, and then I couldn't go to work, and then I get fired. It would just like that. But now that I'm sober, I just deal with problems. They're like little hurdles. I'm just like I go, and then I'm just like, okay, oh, there's a problem. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna like jump over this and keep going. And now it's just like a normal part of life, where before it really wasn't. So yeah, I've been blessed that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I like that. Little hurdles. We're just jumping over little hurdles. We've been through some big ones, and now these
Yeah,
ones, they're little hurdles.
yeah.
Um, so how can we as a collective society, as a country, as Christians, sort of, how can we begin to tackle this problem of addiction that's like plaguing our society and killing, taking the lives of our friends and family? And
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like that's a pandemic on its own. This year, the last year in total have taken so many people, right? Um, in Europe, they actually have a government program that they actually incentivize the business owners to hire addicts, because what they found is separating addicts from society actually causes more harm. So what they've done is they've just reintroduced them. So the government actually they actually subsidize their wages, um, so that they can feel a part of society and have that purpose, kind of like what I was talking about when I became a financial advisor. It gives them that. It gives them that aspect of it, and then obviously accompanied with some treatment. Would work really well together. So I think and I really like that idea, and it would be nice if Canada adopted something like that. um, and I'm really thankful for people that didn't enable me, but they were ready to help me when I was ready. um, so I think educating people is really important. Educating, that addiction is a disease. It is an obsession of the mind and an allergy of the body. um, and really, and educating people what enabling really is, because some people can enable people without even really knowing that they're enabling people. And so I think that is really important, and then just having the resources available, um, ready for people when they're ready to change. Because like I know sometimes you just wish you could just scream at people and just get it, like, and what I tell people now is like, I wish I could take the feeling that I feel inside of me and just put it inside of you for like 5 seconds, And then if I gave it to you for 5 seconds, you would be like, this is way better than a drug. And I want some of that. How do I do it? Right? Like I would do anything to do that, right? Just tell me what I got to do. Like who do I have to rob? What do I have to do? Right? Like you will do anything to do that. But we can't. So that kind of sucks. So we can't enable people. We have to let them kind of reach their bottoms. Hopefully they do it before they die. And I just, yeah, it's really, really sad. But then having those resources available and ready and help them get to the next step. Like we need more. I did some research on touch by addiction. I think it's amazing. More people need to go to treatment. There needs to be more treatment facilities, and there needs to be more transitional housing, available in a non-enabling way. So a little bit more than a shelter, but like actually some treatment involved in transitional housing. But yeah, that's what I think.
Oh, that's awesome. Giving me a lot of food for thought, and I'm sure to the people listening too. Yeah, unless you have anything to add, I think that's a okay place to leave it. It's been about half an hour, and
Yeah.
our supreme leader, who cannot be named for employment reasons or whatever, we want him around half an hour, so that's what we do. But thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks for having
that,
me.
and yeah, God bless you, and yeah, thanks.
Yeah. God bless. Thanks.